Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of Langer at the Mic, this Cowboys post-game show here, episode of Langer at the Mic, where I didn't honestly want my first YouTube show here to be a breakdown of a Cowboys loss, especially the Cowboys' last game of the season that effectively ended their chance at making the playoffs. But here it is. The Cowboys lose 23-19 to the New York Football Giants in a game that could have given them the chance to win the NFC least or East least, whatever you want to say, at 7-9, and to make the playoffs. Obviously, pending the result of the Washington game this evening. But unfortunately, the Cowboys, just as has been the case all of 2020, whenever they have a chance to kind of make us forget about how bad they have been at times this season, they remind us that this year in 2020, they're just a bad football team. And this game against the Giants was another example of that. You know, if you look back at the losses to Washington, the losses to Baltimore, the losses to Arizona, maybe not so much the loss to Arizona, again, whenever there's a chance, whenever you feel like this Cowboys team is going to put their warts and just their awful, uninspired, just bad football behind them, they just bring it back to the forefront and remind us of it. So anyway, this has been, I always kept referring to the loss against Washington on Thanksgiving as the worst loss of the Cowboys season. Like, that was just the biggest, most like hurtful loss to the season, especially since Marcus Paul had just passed away a day before. I think it was the day before. Like, this was the second worst loss of the season. This loss to the Giants. This game felt like a circus, honestly. It felt like a friggin' like it was like a Mickey Mouse performance by both teams, both coaching staffs, and it was just, like, honestly so hard to watch. For, I'd say, 3 out of those 4 quarters were just awful to watch. So anyway, let's get into it. And I'll also get into the 2 biggest reasons why the Cowboys lost this game, and they aren't what you think they are. So let's get into the first half, which was awful for the Cowboys. Honestly, even for both teams to some extent. Even because the Giants, they're a bad football team. They're just poorly run. They have a weak roster. They're just, Joe Judge has done a pretty good job at least beating Seattle in that, just winning, leading the Giants to win against Seattle a couple weeks ago. But overall, don't kid yourselves. The Giants are a bad football team. They have a good defense. I'll give them that. They have a good defense. But Daniel Jones, if Daniel Jones is my franchise quarterback, I need a new franchise quarterback, because Daniel Jones is just not a good quarterback. And I predicted early on that he would have 2 turnovers at least in this game, and he surely enough did have 2 turnovers in this game. But anyway, more on the Cowboys though. The first half, like, Dalton was just awful in the first half. Andy Dalton, after having an awesome game against the Eagles, I think it was 3 touchdown passes or 4. Yeah, I think it was 3 touchdown passes, 370 something yards, and 500 yards of total offense against the Eagles. Maybe it just shows how bad the Eagles were. But even the week before against the 49ers, scored 40 something points, 24, 21 points off turnovers, whatever it was. And the week before, of course, being okay, the Bengals were the Bengals. You still beat them 30-7. Like, you had 3 wins in a row. But in this game, we saw the team that played against the Washington football team, the team that played against the Arizona Cardinals, and the team that played against the Baltimore Ravens, at least in the first half. But again, the Giants, being the bad football team that they are, didn't beat the Cowboys as much. So anyway, back to Dalton though. He missed, like, whenever he was off in this game, he was just brutally off, like, just so badly off. He should have thrown like 5 interceptions in the first half alone, but luckily he didn't. So that's on him. It's on the offensive line. Obviously, look, they're beaten up, but still they just couldn't protect him. But it's also on Andy Dalton for holding the ball too long sometimes. He gave up 6, or he took 6 sacks in this game. Andy Dalton did. So that's also partly on the quarterback, because if you're just holding the ball and expecting your makeshift offensive line to protect all day for you, well, that's on you as the quarterback. And but he does deserve credit for his toughness. We'll get into that a little bit more, but he does deserve credit for being tough and for still trying to make plays with his legs as much as he could. But still, overall, the fact the Cowboys got off to an awful start on both sides of the ball in the first half really put them behind the 8 ball against a bad team. And like I said, the Cowboys got their turnovers from the Giants, but on defense specifically, they gave a 5.9 yards per carry to Wayne Gallman, not Saquon Barkley, Wayne Gallman. got 5.9 yards per carry. And he almost fumbled the game away at the end there, of course, in that cockamamie sequence at the end, which again we'll also get into. But yeah, they let Jason Garrett, they let Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones walk and just run all over them pretty much on defense. And they were, and by the way, the Giants were awful on third downs. Both teams were pretty bad on third downs. The Giants didn't even have a single third down conversion on offense. That just shows how bad they were. And they didn't need that to put up 20 points in the first half and get 336 total yards of offense. But also they were helped by the Cowboys' 6 penalties on defense that they took in the first half, including just galling stupidity by Jordan Lewis headbutting. I forget if it was Evan Ingram or that Giants offensive lineman. I forget who it was, but that was just like stupid penalties. Also, there was Randy Gregory pushing, I think it was Kevin Zeitler, or like one of their guards, offensive linemen, into the pile. That was another free 15 yards there. So again, the Giants didn't even really need to be that good on offense to win this game. It was just the Cowboys were just that bad and undisciplined in the first half on both sides of the ball, on defense and on offense. But anyway, now let's get into the 2 plays that I really think cost the Cowboys in this one. And again, one of them is not what you think it is. I know you're thinking about the challenge, the non-challenge by Mike McCarthy. Now, here's my little theory on this non-challenge play. Aaron Andrews at the beginning of the first half mentioned how, or at the beginning of the second half, mentioned how that she wasn't able to get a hold of Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys coaching staff going like at halftime because of technical difficulties. Now, according to Jeff Kavanaugh on Twitter at JC1053, and apparently, according to him, and apparently the way it works is it's the coaching staff upstairs that they have to tell Mike McCarthy whether a play is challenge worthy or not. And apparently maybe the message didn't get to McCarthy quick enough. So if that's the case, you can't fault Mike McCarthy for not challenging that Pettis catch, that catch, or that non-catch by Pettis. So to me, and I'm also wondering if those technical difficulties had something to do with that. So if it's not technical difficulties, then it's somehow that communication link between the coaches upstairs and Mike McCarthy broke down, and that's what led to Mike McCarthy not challenging that catch, or that non-catch by Pettis. But at the same time, I mean, you also, I guess, could fault McCarthy to just throw the challenge flag and say what the hell. Because I'm sure, I don't know, but I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar with that process. But you would have liked to have seen McCarthy throw the challenge flag in that situation. But you know what? All that to say is I don't even attribute that to the reason why the Cowboys lost this game. That's not my reason why the Cowboys lost this game. There are 2 other plays that I can point to that were just absolutely unacceptable and that led to the Cowboys losing today. And that almost one of them actually was at the end of the first half, was the clock management boo-boo at the end of the first half where they had moved the ball into field goal range. It was like 20-something seconds left. They had 1 timeout left, and they had moved the ball into the field goal range. And what they did is they sprinted up to the ball and attempted to spike it and save the timeout, when they ended up taking a false start penalty and moving back out of field goal range, and then just having like 7 seconds left and still having to take a timeout to prevent the 10-second runoff. So in that situation, it's like, just take the timeout. And okay, if you want to get deeper into Giants territory, then run another play with the 15 seconds that are on the clock. And if it doesn't work, then kick the 40-yard field goal. But instead of making it a 57-yard field goal for Greg Zuerlein, who has been sometimes really good this year, sometimes not as good this year, obviously the onside kick aside, but just in terms of you didn't know if you're going to get the Greg Zuerlein from the Baltimore game, and a 57-yard field goal for your kicker is not a fair ask all the time. So just instead of putting yourself in that situation, take the time out, take the time to, if you want to run another play, then do so carefully, but just don't make the situation worse by sprinting up the line, spiking the ball, taking a penalty, and having less time to run a play and moving back 5 yards. So that was almost a big play that cost the Cowboys, but Greg Zuerlein saved them. So anyway, so all this to say, I was honestly ready to credit the players and coaches for bouncing back in the second half, because they did. That play, that turnover by Donovan Wilson, that interception by Donovan Wilson, that tip ball that landed right in his hands, that brought the Cowboys to life. And then they started playing better on defense and started moving the ball on offense. And they essentially came to life. But to me, what doesn't get talked about enough is, why did the Cowboys not go for 2 after the Ezekiel Elliott touchdown? That is play number 1. Why did the Cowboys kick an extra point? And when it's 20-15, you just scored a touchdown to make it 20-15. Why don't you even attempt a 2-point conversion to make it potentially 2017 and only be down by a field goal instead of 4 points? But nope, the Cowboys kicked the extra point down 2016. At the time, I was thinking, hey, that's weird. And not even Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were talking about it. Not even, and like maybe 1 or 2 people on Twitter were talking about it. That was like that to me was like, okay, that's weird. Why didn't the Cowboys go for 2 on that play? So anyway, 2016. But then the other play to me that cost the Cowboys the game, obviously there was the non-challenge, right? The non-challenge on that catch by Pettis in the fourth quarter. But then the Cowboys now get the ball back down 23-19. They're driving the entire field. Kellen Moore called a great game, by the way, up until this point. Kellen Moore called a fantastic game. It was just Dalton missing throws, the offensive line not protecting, and the receivers not making spectacular catches to make up for Andy Dalton, not making good throws. But and I just think despite that, Kellen Moore, after having just signed an extension yesterday, after not taking the job at Boise State, called a heck of a game until this very moment. And even on that read option, that 4th and 1 read option play to Andy Dalton, who scampered for 15 whatever yards on 4th and 1. And anyway, so the Cowboys, they drive into position to score the game-winning touchdown. It's 1st and goal, and it's inside 2 minutes. So to me, when I'm in that situation, I'm not only trying to get the touchdown, but I'm also trying to force the Giants to burn their timeouts and have little to no time left when they get the ball back. So to me, if it's 1st and goal from inside, 1st and goal from inside the 10, of course, and inside 2 minutes, and you have 1st and goal, I'm running the ball on 1st down. I'm running the ball in a straight line on 1st down to the worst case scenario, get back to the line of scrimmage inside at the 7-yard line or wherever they were. Worst case scenario. Running the football, getting no gain, but guess what? The clock runs. The Cowboys or the Giants have to burn timeouts. But what do the Cowboys do? They come out empty, 5 wide receivers, Dalton alone in the shotgun, empty, and they take a sack. And they lose 12 yards or however many yards they lost on that sack. So to me, that was the second play that cost the Cowboys this one. They're in 1st and goal. 7-yard line. All you have to do is run the ball up the middle. You have 4 tries to get into the end zone. 4 tries. Run some clock, make the Giants burn timeouts, score a touchdown, and the Giants get the ball back with roughly about less than 40 seconds to go in the game, or less than a minute for sure. And then you're forcing Daniel Jones to waltz down the field and at worst kick a field goal. Okay, yeah, worst score a touchdown, but let's say for argument's sake, kick a field goal. Okay, but instead, again, you line up an empty shotgun, you're passing it. So if you throw an incomplete pass, you're stopping the clock. And if you take a sack, you lose the 10 yards or 12 yards that you lose. And then at that point, it was just obviously, there was also the drop by CeeDee Lamb, which wasn't helpful because he would have gotten to a good position there. But then Andy Dalton obviously had to throw Hail Marys on 3rd and 4th down, and the 3rd down attempt got intercepted. And that was essentially the game. And then you had the whole Mickey Mouse sequence at the end there where Wayne Gallman almost fumbled the game away and almost gave the Cowboys another chance. But anyway, it was just a really awful. It was just, this game was the epitome of the Cowboys 2020 season and the epitome of the NFC East in a game. And with that being said, just like, look, the players deserve blame, the coaches deserve blame. But with that being said, I want to see what Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore can do with a healthy Dak Prescott for an entire year. And I still believe that Mike McCarthy, as the head coach, who you just signed to a 5-year contract for, Mike McCarthy does deserve that second chance going into 2021. Just one more chance for Mike McCarthy, because we've seen bad decisions by Mike McCarthy, but we've also seen really good decisions and good game management by Mike McCarthy, which led to wins. And from Kellen Moore, we've seen Kellen Moore try to do as best he can to make something out of virtually nothing on this offense. Okay, except for maybe 3 really good wide receivers. You had a banged up Ezekiel Elliott, or an overpaid and average to mediocre Ezekiel Elliott this year. You had your number one quarterback gone. You had your number one tight end gone. You had your entire offensive line out with injury. And Kellen Moore, made the Cowboys, did as much as he could to do something out of nothing this year for the the Cowboys on offense. And again, even though that sequence at the end was unacceptable in this game, I just want to see what it would look like in 2021 with Kellen Moore. But with all that being said, though, so Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore obviously has the extension. Mike Nolan, enough is enough. Enough is enough with Mike Nolan. So you gave up 20 points in the first half to a Giants team that pretty much got shut out in the last 3 games with Daniel Jones starting at quarterback. I think they just gave up like maybe a field goal to like the Cardinals or something a few weeks ago. But essentially, you gave up 20 points to Daniel Jones and the Giants in the first half. And we've seen that all year with just slow starts on defense or just being awful against the run. Like I said, Gallman averaged 5.9 yards per carry, and the Giants, I think, had like 100 something yards rushing. You let Jason Garrett and Daniel Jones do well enough to win, and even that is not saying much because, like I said, you're just that bad with the penalties and all that. You're just undisciplined and essentially lost yourselves the game. But anyway, either way, look, even if the Cowboys had won this game, it all comes down to that Washington game tonight. And honestly, Washington deserves this division. Washington will have Alex Smith back tonight. I think whenever Alex Smith has been under center for the Washington football team this year, they've been better. I'm not saying they've been great, but they've been the best team in this division when they've had Alex Smith under center. They still have that awesome defense with Chase Young, Daron Payne, Montez Sweat, and Ryan Kerrigan, and that entire defensive line, and I honestly, even though they're in the NFC East, and even though they don't have that name, or especially because they don't have that name that they used to, I think I'm honestly cheering for them in this. I'm cheering for them tonight to beat the Eagles. I'm cheering for Ron Rivera. I'm cheering for Alex Smith. And I'm also cheering for them to prove to the world that Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucks are a bunch of frauds on national TV and wildcard weekend next week. So yeah, I'm cheering for that. I'm not saying I'll cheer for them to win the Super Bowl this year, but I am cheering for them tonight, and I'm cheering for them next week for the Washington football team. But anyway, back to the Cowboys. The good news, just real quick, the good news and the good takeaways from this 2020 season is that Jerry Jones will be mad. Jerry's gonna be mad. Jerry Jones will not it's one thing to go 8-8, 8-8, 8-8, but to go 6-10, oh boy, the owner's not gonna like that. So Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and the front office, they're going to have to do things this offseason, which is always good. They're going to have to do things this offseason. And like I said, the first thing is that they should most likely fire Mike Nolan. That's the first step in this offseason, is firing Mike Nolan, because over the course of the entire season, the defense was just more awful than it was good. So Mike Nolan's got to go. The good news is injury luck will likely not be as stupid as it was this season going forward. So that means you probably won't lose Dak Prescott to injury again. You probably won't lose as many offensive line starters as you did this year. You probably won't lose as many defensive line starters as you did this year either. And yeah, so injury luck won't be this stupid going forward. Ezekiel Elliott, even though his stats weren't pretty, he had 14 rushes, 42 yards, and a touchdown. He played hard this game. He gave it his all in this one. Now that doesn't fix the problem that he's not at the level of Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, who had a 40-something yard touchdown today. He's not at that level, at least this year. That's a problem, and the fact that he still has that contract is a problem. But at least when he's playing as hard as he does and not turning the ball over, and especially like turning 0-yard carries into 4-yard carries and punching it into the end zone when he has the opportunity to do so, that's good news from Ezekiel Elliott. Cowboys still have Amari Cooper. They still have CeeDee Lamb. They still have Michael Gallup. Let's see what CeeDee Lamb could do with a full season with Dak Prescott at quarterback instead of Andy Dalton, Garrett Gilbert, and Ben DiNucci. We even have a really good tight end too in Dalton Schultz, who led the team in receiving today, 7 receptions, 70 yards. We still have DeMarcus Lawrence, who had a sack today and is still the Cowboys' best run defender on the team. Cowboys still have Randy Gregory if he survives the offseason, of course, God willing he does. He had the stupid penalty today, but in the last couple of games, he's been the second most productive Cowboys defensive lineman. Cowboys have Donovan Wilson. He's now emerged as a playmaking safety again, even though these aren't the best offenses that the Cowboys have played these last couple of weeks. He's still finding himself in good position to make plays, and he brings a physical edge to the defense that not many other players on this Cowboys defense have. Trayvon Diggs played a really good game. He was in really good position. They went after him a few times, but he was in good position to break up a few plays, including, I think there was one to, I don't know if it was Slayton or Pettis down the sideline where he just like punched the ball away at the last second. So, Trayvon Diggs is breaking up plays. He's breaking up passes and he isn't getting burned. He didn't get nearly burned as much in the last 4 weeks as he did earlier in the season. And the Cowboys can, add to that or keep Chido Awuzie hopefully on the cheap. Not to say that the Cowboys shouldn't try to draft another corner, but if you have a healthy Trayvon Diggs and Chido Awuzie as your defensive cornerback starters next year, and you have maybe a Micah Parsons or another edge rusher or a defensive tackle that you add to the middle, and maybe another safety, one of the above, then that won't be too bad. If you have Donovan Wilson, Chido Awuzie, Trayvon Diggs starting at corner, you can live with that, assuming, of course, you upgrade a defensive tackle, maybe upgrade at linebacker and safety, and add another safety as well. And also the Cowboys have a punter in Hunter Nicewander. I think he's played much better this year than Chris Jones has. I mean, I know, to be fair, Chris Jones has been banged up, but he also hasn't been as good of a punter as he's been. I think it was like 2015 to like 2018 were Chris Jones's best years, but I just think the Cowboys have to stick with Hunter Nicewander going into 2021 because he was really good as a punter this year. And best of all, the Cowboys get maybe not a top 5 pick, but the Cowboys can maybe get a top 10 pick out of this. I saw Tankathon. I think Tankathon before the start of the 4:30 game said that the Cowboys would be in the number 9 spot or even the number 10 spot. And I think at worst they'll fall to the number 13 spot. So regardless, you still get, again, not the top 5 pick, but you still get a top 13 pick. But hey, 2021, man. Hopefully 2021 for the Cowboys is going to be better than 2020. And that's an easy thing to say, but honestly, this is a big offseason for the Cowboys. Get Dak under contract, upgrade that defense, get rid of Mike Nolan, and we'll see where it goes. Just have a good draft, have a really solid draft. I mean, the Cowboys, I think, should get a comp pick from having lost Byron Jones last year. So, just get as many draft picks as possible. Also, maybe by trading down if possible. I want to make a video on that as well. I want to do a whole mega study on whether trading down actually works or not. But that'll be for another time. But yeah, just big off season for the Cowboys. And if the Cowboys don't have stupid injury luck again going into next year, well, they'll be the favorites to win the division. And assuming Washington doesn't get a real stud at quarterback, that's another thing, because Washington is the best team in this division, I think, especially with a good quarterback. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for watching this Cowboys-Giants post-game show here on Langer at the Mike Live. As usual, you can give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Mike Langer. The handles will be in the description below. But this has been a Cowboys post-game and unfortunately a postseason wrap-up here on Langer at the Mike Live. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again sometime soon. Take care.